Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and week 1 of the NFL is officially in the books after tonight's Monday Night Football game. This was a very exciting matchup on paper. It ended up being a pretty decisive victory for the 49ers over the Jets. And Logan, I think in a lot of ways, the big story for this game is Aaron Rodgers' return, which was obviously very highly anticipated coming off his Achilles tear, missing the entirety of last season except for the first 4 snaps. But also, there was some concern among some people around the Niners after this offseason. Brandon Ayuk holding out, Trent Williams not at camp. There was just some off-the-field drama. Did not seem to affect them on the field in this one. What did you take away from the Niners' performance in this one?
Yeah, we can start with the Niners. I mean, I think that they could be even better than last year. I mean, what we saw from this offense, Carson, was just so impressive. 8 straight scoring drives. They completely dominate this game. They dominated the entire way through. They in non-garbage time, excluding Tyrod Taylor on the field, they double the Jets in plays from scrimmage. And this is a team that's down Christian McCaffrey. You have Jordan Mason in. He goes for 28 carries, 147 yards, 1 TD. I mean, that's down the best offensive player in football, in my opinion, against a damn good defensive front. And it didn't even matter. And another one of those big concerns for people was the 49ers offensive line, which I thought didn't miss a beat. Down an offensive lineman, Aaron Banks. Trent Williams didn't play in the preseason. Yeah, I mean, I just think that during this game, Carson, all I could think about was how during week 1's action, you brought up the fact, or through our season previews too, you go, man, nobody picked the Niners. Everybody's picking the Packers. Everybody's picking the Lions. Everybody's picking this team
Theo
and that
said
team.
it too when we had him on.
And I mean, I consider the Jets to be on the bubble, on the cusp of being a Super Bowl contender. And I think they're going to look better. We'll get into what they can do better a little bit later in the show. But the Niners crushed them. And I mean, they dominated this game. Like, it was one of the most dominant week 1 performances out of any of these teams. And it wasn't particularly close. Like, when you can rest your defense this much, when you can move the ball this convincingly and then make plays like they did on this Jets offense, stuff the run, force a turnover on Rodgers, get pressure home all game, it's just a dominant performance. I mean, they dominate in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The pressure was great. Yeah, dude, my big takeaway was that I think the Niners might be even better this season. And that's shocking, one, considering how great they were last year, considering they're not at full health in this game, and considering how many people aren't taking this team to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And the only reason that I didn't have the Niners going is because I picked the Chiefs out of the AFC. And I'm not picking a Super Bowl repeat because that doesn't happen. And also, that would be lame. That would be chalk. But like, yes, they are the favorites in the conference. Let's not get that twisted. They have an incredibly replicable formula. They got them to the brink of a Super Bowl that they can basically just run back. And it is incredible how much of a consistent force this team is. And I'm talking year after year, like the sustained brilliance is just ridiculous. You can look at the various units, as you're mentioning, Logan, that like were a question mark to some for this team. You can look at the defensive line where there was some turnover, right? They lose Eric Armstead this offseason. They lose Chase Young, who they added as the splashy midseason addition last year. And yet they're still dominant up front. We've seen that over years and years, right? Eric Armstead was an elite defensive player on the front in the 2019 Super Bowl run. They replace him and remain an elite front. I think Leonard Floyd is a dynamic pure pass rusher. I don't think that he is as complete a defensive lineman maybe as a Chase Young. I think that Chase is probably a little underrated, but Leonard Floyd is productive, man, and he's fast and he's bendy. And I thought Malik Collins was just eating up space up the middle. And then alongside them, you have a couple of elite defensive linemen with, of course, Bosa, one of the best on the planet, and with Javon Hargrave. So they're stacked up there. You look at the running back position where they have their best player unavailable for this game. Jordan Mason goes crazy. I've always liked him when we've seen him in the game, but he's physical. He's a good one-cut back. He's a good receiving back. And above all else, he plays for the San Francisco 49ers. And not to diminish him, because I thought he looked good out there, but if you are a running back for the San Francisco 49ers in the Kyle Shanahan era, you're going to produce Raheem Mostert, Matt Breida, Elijah Mitchell. Like, you can just run down the list. Jeff Wilson was fine for them, dude. Like, if you have speed, if you have one distinct strength as a player, like, this offense is going to maximize that, and you're going to have probably your most efficient season. So shout out to Jordan Mason. He is next in line for the dudes who Shanahan can just kind of find off the scrap heap and get them to produce. And it's just remarkable. I have to give so much credit to Shanahan, so much credit to John Lynch. Like, I was just thinking, compared to that 2019 team, it is so rare to have Super Bowl runs 4 years apart with different quarterbacks without an elite quarterback. Like, if you're going to sustain that normally, it's because you have a Peyton Manning holding things together. It's because you have a Tom Brady holding things together, Patrick Mahomes holding things together, which could not be further from the case for the 49ers. And yet they just replace talent everywhere. Their secondary, they have just found continually great talent. You think about Hufanga and Brown and Lenore and Travarius Ward, like all these dudes who they've added within the last few seasons, and they've all just been great additions. I just got to give the Niners props, man, because I don't think there's ever a year that it is wise to bet on them not making it to the NFC title game. Like, I get it. We can be fun. We can try to mix things up, but they dominate in the trenches. They have elite skill position talent. They have elite perimeter talent defensively. They're down Dre Greenlaw for the regular season, but he very well could get back for the playoffs. They're just a force. They're a powerhouse.
I mean, they've been to 3 straight NFC title games. They've been to NFC title games 4 of the last 5 seasons. They've been to Super Bowls 2 of the last 5 seasons, right? They've represented the NFC. In the one down year when they go 6-10, it's because you got the Nick Mullins show. And you talk about Kyle Shanahan elevating running backs. I mean, he just elevates everybody. The thing that stood out to me most about this game, though, was just how dominant San Francisco was in the trenches. Like, the Jets are not a pushover team. This is a defense that I think is going to eviscerate a lot of offenses. And obviously, that's not going to happen to the Niners. They're too good. They're too well coached.
Should be the best defense in football, probably.
There's too much talent. They're up there. Jets. I mean, top 5, yeah. And they got crushed in this game. They are down Hassan Reddick. They've followed that storyline a lot. And honestly, in this one, it kind of seems like they might need him out there this year. And I think they're going to look better against other teams. But it's like, this is a top 5 unit, a team that I expect to hover around there. This should be the strength of their team, right? And the Niners just go through them like paper, man. They just burn them. And I thought the Niners could have put up more points. Like, they leave some meat on the bone in this game. Ayuk drops a TD.
Yep.
There's some other easy conversions they don't make. Like, Jake Moody kicked 6 field goals. A lot of those could have very easily been touchdowns in this game. The Niners dominated in this one. It's surprising. I expected the Jets to put up more of a fight. If you've got some more stuff on the Niners, I'll let you take over. But I do think the Jets should look better, and I was pretty disappointed in this debut for Rodgers and just this performance. Well, not really Rodgers, just this performance from New York overall. Because, I mean, he was barely on the field. Like, that's a big thing. Like, the Niners just have the ball the majority of this game. They don't even let Rodgers get on the field. And it wasn't really as much of a disappointment from from Rodgers as it was from the Jets as a whole.
I thought this was a very clean game from the Niners offensively, not like overly explosive, not by any means a jaw-dropping performance for them, and they still put up over 400 yards of offense. Like, that's just what they do. I thought Purdy was really good. I thought he was getting the ball out quickly. I thought he made some really nice throws in this game. He missed a couple during that little stretch in the third quarter, but you mentioned, I mean, dotted up Ayuk in the end zone, had another nice ball to Ayuk that he dropped as well. So he was just a little rusty in this one, but Debo, we see him utilized in the run game again. The guy is just ridiculously hard to tackle. And I really like Juwan Jennings. He's the last dude I want to shout out. I think he is just another diamond in the rough who the Niners have found and are going to continue to make the most of. And we haven't even seen Ricky Pearsall and won't see him for 4 weeks, but he'll just be another weapon in this offense. They're going to be great, man. They're basically a guaranteed elite football team at this point. Let's talk about the Jets, though, Logan. You mentioned your disappointment. What concerned you most from this performance?
One, I expected the defense to impose their will a little bit more on San Francisco. I'm going to attribute that more to San Francisco being great than the Jets being bad. Before I make any big declarations on New York, I want to see them against more teams, non-Super Bowl front runners and favorites. That can happen, and the Niners do that to a lot of great football teams. But I thought the Jets specifically, outside of their defense facing an easier opponent and playing better point blank period, I thought they should have leaned on Rodgers a little bit more in this one. And he looked good for coming off of an Achilles injury. It's tough coming back. It's tough returning off a year. Any injury like that, an MCL, an ACL, any major knee or lower leg injury is really hard, especially the Achilles. I thought Rodgers had a ton of zip on his ball. I thought he made good decisions. I thought he put the ball in good spots. His receivers have some bad drops. Lazard's got a bad one. Garrett Wilson has a bad one. And the interception's not really on him. That's a deflected ball. It's a really good play by the Niners defense. I don't even really put that one on Rodgers. The thing I was most disappointed with was just the play calling. Like, I thought Nathaniel Hackett was really conservative, ran the ball a lot with Breece Hall. And it's not that I don't want him to go to Breece Hall. Breece Hall is one of the handful of most talented running backs in the National Football League. Yeah. But it's like when you are consistently getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage, when the Niners are winning that battle there, and you keep going to him, like the 3rd and 1 at the end of the game, when they overturn the first down, I'm putting the ball in Rodgers' hands twice. I don't care. I like Breece too. I think the offensive line should be better. You haven't won at the line of scrimmage all day, so why do you think you're going to get push all of a sudden? And there was just a lot of instances in that where I thought they were too conservative, a lot of bubble screens, a lot of plays out of the backfield, a lot of handoffs on early downs. And I'm going, I know Aaron Rodgers is coming off of an Achilles injury, and maybe you want to ease him back in. He looked damn good during that touchdown drive that they had in the first half. And he looked like old Rodgers. I was juiced up, Carson. I missed watching Aaron Rodgers play football, man. He still got it. He may not be MVP Rodgers, but I think he can give me 85 to 90% of what he was at in those seasons. Like, I think Rodgers is going to have a good year, and I think the Jets have to lean on him more because I am worried about the offensive line in general. This is an older unit. Like, I'm glad they brought in Morgan Moses. I'm glad they brought in Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith got cooked by Bosa on one of those plays, allowed a lot of pressure all night. Again, overall, they just didn't get a ton of push. And again, the thing I was just most disappointed with was just the play calling, man. I think Aaron Rodgers is your best offensive player. You need to lean on him a little more and let him make plays for you. And I hope they do that moving forward because I just thought it was a poorly called game by Nathaniel Hackett.
They definitely treated Rodgers like their 40-year-old quarterback coming off of an Achilles tear. So that's one of a few reasons that I'm not overly concerned about this performance from the Jets. Another one just being that I think the Niners are a great team. The Niners are a better team than them. They're stacked basically everywhere. New York is playing on the road. Mike Williams barely gets on the field in this game. And the depth in the receiving core when he's not on the field, is really rough.
That was strange too. I don't know why the guy suited up over there. He looked pretty PO'd too. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Also, why was Sauce Gardner off the field for that stretch in the second quarter?
That made no sense either.
Weird stuff. But I think for Mike, it's just, him playing his way into midseason form as well, coming off of a major injury. So it was a weird one for the Jets. I don't think it's necessarily representative of who they are as a football team. And I would give Rodgers a B in this return to action. I thought that for the most part, he looked good. He looked basically like the quarterback I expected to see, which is like a fringe top 10, maybe the 8th to 12th best quarterback in football. You're not getting MVP Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that you're getting the level of mobility necessary for that, but you're getting a really surgical, brilliant intellectual quarterback. Like, he has that mastery of the game, his accuracy, his decision-making inside the pocket to age as gracefully as some of the greats that we've seen. I'm not going to say like Tom Brady because that's one of one, but when you think about old Drew Brees, right, still being a very efficient, productive quarterback, I think Rodgers has a more live arm than Brees did at this age. And so I think that he can honestly be better than Brees was at this stage in his career. And he threw some perfect balls in this game. The one where he led Lazard on the sideline was a beauty. The free play touchdown, where of course he is the GOAT. Like, that was a beautiful ball. Clearly he trusts Lazard, which is interesting because I don't think he's that good, but hey, when you're down Mike Williams, you go with what you got. But I just thought he was getting the ball out quickly. He's getting to the top of his drop and that ball is just out. So I think when you compare it to the other late 30s quarterback coming off of an Achilles tear in Kirk Cousins, I mean, it's a way, way better performance. And of course for Kirk, he's 2 months less into his recovery because he tore his ACL midseason compared to Rodgers, who did it week 1. But like you talked about, Kirk didn't take any snaps from under center. He didn't really move. Like, he looked rough out there. Rodgers, I thought, played a pretty good, if unspectacular, football game. But you mentioned that one drive was really nice. He did miss the big throw on 4th and 1 to Garrett Wilson. He's got to make that. But I think you should feel good about the Aaron Rodgers you're expecting if you're the Jets, unless you had crazy expectations of him being like MVP, top 5 Aaron Rodgers, which he wasn't last season. He was healthy. So I don't know why he would get back to that another 2 years older and after a major injury. I do want to give props to Garrett Wilson, though. I just think he's an absolute stud, and it's going to be awesome to see him with actual quarterback play. Such a complete receiver, great route runner, sub 4.4 speed. You see him getting utilized on a variety of routes. He's getting involved in the screen game. I think he's in for a monster season. And Mike Williams, I do think, is going to add an element of dynamism to this offense. Like, I don't think he's a great number 2, but he's a number 2 at least. And the Jets did not have that in this game. The concern to me offensively for them, though, was how they got dominated up front. And I really believed in the improvement in this offensive line. And by the way, I still like what they've done at the tackle spot, and that is where they poured their resources, right? Getting Morgan Moses, getting Tyron Smith, drafting Fashanu. I feel good about the tackle spot. It's really the interior offensive line, and I thought that that's where they really, really struggled running the football between the tackles. And also, that's not Breece's strength as a runner, right? He's not that sort of physical short yardage back. He's get him out in space, get him running outside the tackles, let him go to work. And they just didn't get much push on the interior. And so I thought that they probably tried to run Breece up the middle too much, and he was really pretty bottled up. I want to see him running more off tackle. I like that they got him involved in the passing game. I think he's really good there. But as you mentioned, it's like that 3rd and short at the end of the game. You kind of knew how that was going to go based on how every short yardage situation had gone up until that point. So the Jets are not a perfect football team. They're flawed. Clearly, the Niners exposed those flaws, but I would not be in skies falling panic mode if I'm a Jets fan.
I mean, you've gone from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. He's out there. He's
Praise
playing
be.
football. We did it. Rejoice,
I mean, that is a Super Bowl for the Jets.
And
they had a beautiful touchdown drive.
And God bless Garrett Wilson, man. He has earned
through so much.
He has earned playing with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. That's my chief concern with this Jets team. I think it's the fundamental limiter of the unit is them getting push up front. I do think they're going to be better there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they can leverage their personnel even better. I think they should go to more 12 personnel with Tyler Conklin. He was blocking his ass off today. I mean, he really showed out on a couple of big screen plays. That's how I would do it if I'm New York. Get the ball to Breece in space on screens, out in the flat, let him go to work. And I think the Jets should use pre-snap motion a little bit more. It's easier for me to say watching the game from, my apartment, but all the best offenses do it. And I think it would set Aaron up for a little bit more success. Would tell him at the line of scrimmage what the defense is running. It looked more like the Green Bay off. And that's not shade at Nathaniel Hackett or Rodgers, but it's like the best offenses use that motion all the time to draw up advantages, to relay to the quarterback and Rodgers is a special, unique one where you see how the Rams use it. And the Rams are the best at it. They use pre-snap motion basically more than anybody else in the NFL. A veteran quarterback like Rodgers, that's advantageous to him because he's going to be able to diagnose before he snaps the ball. This is what the defense is running. It's man, it's zone. Mm-hmm. I think there are more clever ways that the Jets can draw up because they're a talented offense. Like, you have playmakers and you have guys that you can get the ball to. It's just about creating advantages for them, getting it to them in space. And ultimately, this is week one of a new team.
Yeah.
I think the Jets are going to look a lot better. I think they're going to lean on Rodgers more. I'm not chicken little, man. Like you said, the sky is not falling here in New York. I still think this team's going to be in the playoffs. I still consider them to be on the bubble of the Super Bowl. It's just about how much improvement we see. And again, the standard is this is a Super Bowl contender, arguably the NFC front runner right now that they're going up against. So I'm not ready to just punt on the Jets just yet.
No, definitely not. And they are about to build some very nice momentum, or at least they should, because they go from the toughest game of the year to a really easy 4-game slate. I mean, they're going to go Titans, Pats, Broncos, Vikes over their next 4 games. So they should be 4-1. And I do think that they will unleash Rodgers more. Like, it's weird. It's weird when you have an old quarterback coming off a major injury, and it's also an extremely difficult matchup like this. I would have liked to see the Jets look better, but this is a scheduled loss. Like, that's what it is. They're underdogs in this game. So I feel good. I think that they should be a playoff team, but I would like to see this defense reach its peak. I think this is an incredibly difficult offense to face, but that's going to be the formula to me. It was never about them being an elite offense. It was Rodgers playing at an above average starting quarterback level, getting the ball to his elite playmakers with Brees and Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams being an upgrade in the receiver room, the line being upgraded, and all of that leading to like an above average offense. And then them being a great defense, maybe the best defense in football. And I still think that they're going to be an awesome defense. This game doesn't change that. Any final thoughts, Logan, before we get out of here and officially say farewell to week one?
Rodgers already a top 5 quarterback in Jets history with one good drive?
Well, let's think about it. Who else is up there? We got Richard Todd. We got Ken O'Brien. We got Joe Namath, Mark Sanchez, and then we got to have Rodgers. That's got to be the 5.
Is Favre? We don't put Favre in there for his immaculate 8-8 season.
No, we should put Favre in there, except he defrauded the people of Mississippi,
True.
so he's in.
So Mark Sanchez by default. So confirmed. Rodgers is already a top 5 QB in Jets history. And Boomer. Shout out Boomer.
I mean, you just can't underestimate what the Sanchez meant for the culture. But Boomer wasn't there long.
Nah.
But to be fair, Aaron Rodgers has played one game there, and we're ready to call him top 5. So the Jets, what an organization!
Oh, Fitzpatrick too, man. It'd be wrong of me to not put Fitzpatrick there, man. What a great QB history.
Got him to 10 wins. Got him to 10 wins. Fitz, he did better Bill, but honorable Jet as well. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. This was a quick one. Hope you enjoyed all the week 1 action and hopefully all of our coverage of it as well. If you want all of our thoughts on yesterday's games, that's on our YouTube channel. Also, in our podcast feed, wherever you get your audio content. Also, we did a show earlier today with Jason Timpf, our friend over at Hoops Tonight, talking about the top 10 players in the NBA by his criteria. So I thought that was a really fun one. It was a long one, lots of in-depth discussion. So you can find that. I believe that's in our podcast feed, and that's also on his YouTube channel, Hoops Tonight. If you want more of our content, then there's plenty of it across our social handles, TikTok, Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at nerd_sesh to see clips from the show, graphics from the show, and all of our short form trivia content. And if you want to join our Discord, you can do so at the link that is across our social media bios in our link tree. And you can check out our merch at thevolume.com. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. 4 days of football in a weekend is kind of crazy, but it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of good football. I know a lot of people are very low on the level of quarterback play. They're low on the offense that we saw. I thought it was a fun week of football. There's some shitty quarterbacks, but there's also a lot of young quarterbacks. There's several rookies starting week 1. We don't always see that. And we still got the cream of the crop at the top. We got Josh, we got Pat, we got Lamar doing their thing. So it's going to be a great season, everybody. Buckle in. I've been Carson Breber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.